Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us, and I hope all of you are having a great day as we get things started here with Computer America. And of course, well, it's we have a great show planned for you as we have something a lot of you might not have heard about because it seems pretty advanced and something a little bit behind the scenes, but it's going to be an enjoyable interview. I really feel for everyone out there as we learn about the digital workforce, and of course, Novatio Solutions will be joining us to talk all about what they do, how they do it, and just get a better grasp on what the workforce of the future looks like. Is there still room for people, or is it all just going to be, robots in the background? It'll be, so it'll be a lot of fun. So, of course, before we start that, a few things, including computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything from a link to our guest website to any articles or videos that we show. Just everything and anything will be in today's show notes. Check that out, computeramerica.com. While you're there, be sure to check out the contest that we run with Logitech. That's every single Friday. We give away a prize to a lucky winner. And there's about a dozen ways to enter. You can enter, 13 times, I think. And we could be calling your name live on the air here when we award that prize. And the last thing is, of course, the live video stream where you can watch Computer America and not just listen. It's another great way to experience the show, what we do, but completely optional because, again, we are a radio program. So with that being said, I think we're just going to kind of jump into this. And again, Novatio Solutions, you can find them, novatiosolutions.com. Link again at Computer America. But we have with us Mr. Gokul Solai with us, and he is the CEO of the company. So Gokul, and of course, Mr. Gokul, thank you for joining us. This is exciting.
Hey, Ben, thank you very much for having me on. I'm very excited to be on the show as well. Yeah,
no, this is going to be great. So I think a good place to start would be, of course, the beginning. And if you could give everyone a background on, of course, Novatio Solutions and a little bit of your background. How did you find yourself, CEO of a digital workforce company?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I actually have a pretty divergent background from technology. So I grew up in the Chicago area and did my undergrad in biomedical engineering at Northwestern. And at that time, I was always interested in technology, but technology at that time was more so sitting in the lab and doing research projects, which really wasn't for me. So I actually made a little career change. I went into medicine and ended up practicing medicine for 5 years in the western suburbs of Chicago. So medicine was great. It was definitely very rewarding, but I also found that there was a lot of hindrance in that seeing my patients almost became like an assembly line. I was in and out of the room. I really couldn't explain the diagnoses, and I felt like I wasn't healing them. I was more so trying to, knock a task off of my to-do list for the day and get back to doing all these redundant activities like billing and coding and documentation. So, I was always looking for a way to make that better and kind of be more patient-facing with my care. And during that time, I was looking into a lot of technology. And so my family's actually had a technology business in Chicago for 25 years, and they've been very successful. They work in the public and private sector, and I was really looking at what they were doing from the managed services side for business process streamlining for a lot of Fortune 100 companies, and they were using lots of different automation tools and digital technology. I was like, how can we make this work with medicine? And that's kind of about 3 years ago where the concept of this digital worker came along. So, in order to give the best explanation of what a digital worker is, kind of give the example of the automobile industry about 25, 30 years ago. So at that time, a lot of the work that was being done was physical. So you'd be on an assembly line and you'd be putting the doors and the windshields and the wheels onto a car. And so with that manual work that was being done, we came up with physical robots. So kind of those stereotypical robots you see on the assembly line moving around parts and assisting humans with the manual work that they were doing. So if we fast forward that example to how work's done currently, everything is digital. We're moving and we're getting emails. We're moving information from our emails into spreadsheets, from spreadsheets into different platforms, and from different platforms, wherever we need to go. So a lot of the work is digital. So what we did is create these digital workers akin to robots, which will replace and help actually humans with the digital work that's going on right now. So that's kind of how I would preface a digital workforce. And I kind of stop right there before we go on, just to see if you need me to clarify on that.
And I guess the obvious question that pops into my mind is, for your example with the cars, I mean, telling a robot that they need to get this close to the chassis, they need to put this screw in, that you can use lasers to, kind of position itself physically. Like it's all a very precise and like verifiable task. Are there a lot of, are there a lot of tasks that in the average workplace could be automated like that? Because, it's like, when you have to write an email to, to a client or try to, make a phone call or make a contact, collect on a bill, those aren't as verifiable as, something physical. So, I mean, are a lot of tasks easily lent to a digital workforce?
Yeah, so that's definitely that's a great question. So the first thing always need to clarify before we talk about these digital workers and these robots is that so these are digital tools, so they're not actually physical robots that are sitting there. And the reason I say that going off because we've had conversations where people at the end are like, hey, how often do we have to give them oil, or do we have to pick what robots? So I just wanted to get that out of the way, and I know I'm being a little bit silly there, but. So the way we have to look at this is a collaboration between humans and robots. So the way I look at it is there's tasks that humans are good at: logical reasoning, interpersonal relationships, judgments, and kind of making inferences on the whole, the big picture. But there's also tasks that digital workers are good at, these robots, such as, aggregating data, processing data, doing calculations on data, and moving data. So the way the partnership works is that the digital workers will take these redundant activities. So, for instance, you gave the example of looking at an email and then actually someone composing it. So what the digital workers can do is, say you had 1,000 or 1,500 emails coming in. They could parse through those emails and categorize them for you. They could parse through those emails. And if there's a particular response that you have to send out, say someone's asking, hey, for instance, I'm in Orlando right now. We just had that hurricane come through. So Duke Energy has all these responses and emails saying, hey, when's power coming up? When's power coming up? And so, all those emails can be overwhelming and cause noise because there's a simple answer for them. But you still have to, go through that one by one usually and send a response. So what we can do with digital workers is, have them read the email. They can parse out certain information, like, okay, where is your zip code coming in this email, and then ultimately, what is your complaint? So we can contextualize the complaint. We can analyze the sentiment, and ultimately give them a response from that. And if it's beyond the scope of that, say that we realize this is a call that's coming in multiple times, or there's content in the email saying, hey, look, we're in danger, we'll escalate that to a human so that they can get to that email right away and handle those higher priority emails, which they probably couldn't have got to as fast before. So that's why we really see it as a partnership. And, that's one example of how we do it. I mean, there's many other ways we've used it, but I guess the key thing to preface here is that it's not it's not robots replacing humans. It's enabling humans to do the activities they're good at and kind of taking those robotic, repetitive activities out of the usual work that humans do.
Right. Well, it's not taking humans out of the equation, but it's probably utilizing the humans that you do have, to a better extent than, like you said, shifting through the noise and finding the emails that they actually have to respond to. Instead, they're, more targeted. So, this next question, two-part question, and it's, what are some of the benefits of a digital workforce? That you outlined one of them there, but I'm sure there are others. So what are the benefits of having a digital workforce? And of course, how can it change the way that work is done?
Yeah. So in the first part of that question, I always look at it from how does it make lives easier for people. And for me, just personally, I always found that you always have something on your plate that you're trying to get to. I mean, everyone's always stretched thin at work, and when you're prioritizing things, you try to get to these higher level tasks that need to be done. But then there's a bunch of just repetitive kind of bookkeeping work that needs to be done, and usually save that till the end of the day, and then you end up saying, hey, I'm going to leave the office at 5, and you stay till 7:30. So, the first thing we can do is take some of that work off of the plate of people by having the digital workers either streamline that work or replicate it entirely. And I gave the example of the emails, but there's other areas as far as doing reports that we can streamline time. So the first thing is it's going to give humans more time to do work and do their work better and actually interact with other people. So that's the first benefit. And if we look at it from the side of an organization, for one, digital workers are going to be able to do tasks 24/7. So, they don't go on vacation. You don't have to worry about enforcing a dress code or hiring or firing them, which makes it easier for an organization as far as flexibility, mobility, et cetera. They also are significantly cheaper as well. So they're usually about 1/10 the cost of what you'd pay a typical employee. So you're also getting benefit from the cost savings. But their value doesn't stop there. So once you implement these digital workers, anything that they do is recorded. So all the keystrokes that's done, all the data points that come in are automatically put into a system. So this data we then turn into information by putting it through data analysis tools. And with this information, we could tell you, hey, look, this process right here isn't running as efficient as it should, or hey, you're understaffed in this area. And also, once we run it through some of the tools we have, we can also learn to become predictive, and that's saying, hey, we realize that in this area you're getting this many alerts, and as a result, because of our calculations, you're going to have a problem here if you don't allocate more resources there. So kind of that predictive and forecasting aspect is another area how the digital workers can help an organization.
Right. So, and this may be a question for a couple of years, but I mean, I assume that you are not the only one doing a digital workforce. I assume that it's an idea that's kind of out there and gaining popularity. Do you see digital work do digital workforces work better with other digital workforces, or better with different people? I mean, how would you say is kind of the best use case for utilizing something like that you do? Is it as much automation, the smoother it is, and it's good to go, or are people still kind of necessary, even at a pretty low level for this whole thing to work?
Yeah, so we could set up something where the digital workers are completely autonomous. So there's processes that we do. For instance, if you look at something really simple like a password reset, I mean, how many times have you had to call in and say, hey, I need my password reset, and you wait online and
Right.
get someone who's really not happy to do that for you? But, the digital workers can take that process and run with it completely from beginning to end. So there's definitely processes that we can do that we don't really need any human touch. But, we feel like the best use is by implementing digital workers into a place where it's kind of a collaboration. And some of the examples I have in that are usually from a monitoring. Or we work with a lot of network operation centers, and essentially these are big tech centers set up to manage, alerts on a macro scale, talking, millions of alerts a day. And what happens is that using technology right now, humans are able to sample about 20% of these tickets. But with the digital worker, since we can scale up and throw as many digital workers as we need, we can evaluate all 1 million of those tickets, get trends based off of 1 million tickets, which just because of a sheer issue, you can't just throw, 1,000 bodies at a problem, but you can throw 1,000 digital workers to meet that volume. So we can make trends based off of those millions, and then give humans the kind of all of the information they need to make decisions. So we're never going to replace that decision-making aspect that humans have, the reasoning and kind of having the overall bigger picture. So we can help humans make more informative decisions based on 100% of the data. And that's why I feel that's the strongest way for the digital workers and the humans to collaborate.
No, makes perfect sense. And, and again, some of these solutions that you're giving me, it does kind of, it does kind of raise the question of a lot of these organizations that I think that could really, use a service such as yourself. They're not particularly tech companies in their own right. So I guess my question is, are you, are you working with these companies to set them up, or do they have to hire on someone who can, kind of automate their processes for them? How involved does Novatio Solutions kind of get with their customers?
Yeah, so no, I agree, and so that's why I think my background is actually not directly in IT or technology, and the reason I changed careers from medicine was because this was something that was very relatable to me. It's not like I'm going to pick up coding later on in my life, and that's one thing I wanted to put out. Is it's not like we're writing programs or writing codes to enable these robots to take actions. We're actually training them and mapping out these processes in a very easy to understand way. So the best example I can give of that is anytime we're teaching, fellow people within our organization to do something, there's always a flow chart that's there. We map out the process. So regardless of if you're a tech company or a bakery, you're going to have some kind of instructions or processes that you follow. And the great thing about our technology is that we're able to take those processes and take them the way that you got them documented, and then on the back end, write the information to relay that to the digital worker. So it's really not a huge undertaking from the technology side. And the great thing is we've gone to different organizations, and our goal is to give them ownership of this product. So we can train them very simply on how to control these robots, how to configure them, and how to make them work in tune with your organization. So that's kind of our goal as far as how we implement these workers. So it's not really a technology solution; it's more so a solution from the process or operations side.
Right, and that might just answer my next question here. But how do you see companies? How do you see the workplace kind of change when you add in these these solutions? I mean, does it just kind of make everyone kind of more efficient? Does it kind of take the workload and people have to work half as long? I mean, how do you see how do you see your customers kind of change after they implement something like you?
Yeah, no, we've actually seen a lot of improvement. And so one of our customers that we have in Dallas, Texas, they're a technology firm, but they purchased our tool about 3 years ago, and ultimately they started off with a small scale deployment. Let's see how this works. And what they were able to do is they were initially offshoring a lot of work to countries like the Philippines and Costa Rica. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with well, I shouldn't say there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a model that's used, so people do it. But at the end of the day, the workers were finding that, hey, we had to work against this time difference. Like we have to communicate with people in the Philippines who speak a different language. So there were pain points that were coming from that. So what we were able to do is reshore that work and bring it all back to the U.S. by having the digital workers perform the work here in the U.S. So anytime there was an issue, hey, what happened with this ticket that was processed, they can automatically go and see what the digital worker did with a ticket, what was documented. So they didn't have the pain point of having to talk to someone in a different language across multiple time zones. So that was definitely something that helped them out. The other thing is they found that they were working more efficiently, and that the data was available to them right away and they're able to make decisions. So they don't have to put their day on hold waiting for something to come back. They're able to streamline their day and essentially get out on time. So they were happy. And as we look at the evolution with that client of ours, they started out very small, but as they became familiar with it, they implemented into more verticals within their organization. And right now they love the solution so much that they even want to sell it to their clients. And so we have a relationship with them to where they push this out to pretty much everyone that they deal with in multiple industries, from retail, logistics, banking, et cetera. So they've loved it. They've loved the efficiencies, and as a result, they've become more efficient with their processes. That their customers have realized that, and they've gotten more business back to their organization as well.
Right. And I bet even for, of course, the end user, having to talk to someone who maybe is, again, doesn't really speak the language and is elsewhere. I think that many people, they'd rather speak to someone, of course, from the U.S. when they have a problem that's even slightly technical, because it can get difficult. So definitely good there. Now, we have this next question, and I'm not sure if they're mixing up their technologies or if Novatio Solutions actually does have a hand in augmented reality. But we have a question here about there are many different viewpoints on artificial intelligence and, AI. Fun fact, just a little while ago, we had another company on the program. You can go back and check out the interview, everyone. That was, let me see. Wow, we just had them on. We had on a company that focuses primarily on artificial intelligence, Signafire. There we go. Yeah, so you can go back and listen to that. But yeah, so we know all about artificial intelligence, and it's a pretty up and coming kind of solution, and I believe that's definitely what you are doing here, of course. But and we know about some of the benefits. But but how do you believe that? And we have here augmented reality. They might have meant artificial intelligence can really be used to help workers rather than hinder them. So, first of all, do you do anything with augmented reality, or, did this question kind of mean artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I think, from the augmented reality side, we do some work, but I think the digital workers are a little bit separate from that technology. There's definitely some overlap there, but maybe we can address this from the AI side, and if needed, we can maybe have some comments on the augmented reality, because I do have some familiarity there. But from the AI side, I'm very, very excited about AI. Ever since I was a kid, I was always into sci-fi, so AI has been there. But do we have true AI right now? I don't really think so. We have tools that they claim are quasi AI. People can make the case that the assistants that we have on our phone, like Siri, are artificial intelligence, but I think that they make our lives very easy on a macro level. Like Siri, you essentially, it saves you a couple of keystrokes from Googling something, or it's not information that's giving you any predictive output. We could have gotten that information by ourselves. It's just streamlining our lives very, very marginally. But I think there's very great potential to ultimately get to what people say as AI, kind of this knowledge-based, predictive, let's assist you in making better decisions kind of technology. And my whole viewpoint on it is that we have to be patient and almost, crawl before we can walk or run. And the example I usually give, having a medical background, is look at how humans learn things. When we're a baby, we don't know anything, and as we're exposed to something, we see something's hot, we touch it a couple times, we won't do that again. And
Right.
when we see and so when we see the color green, we can't really know what green is until we compare it to yellow or blue or red. So we have to be exposed to green, yellow, blue, red, all of this experience. So just like humans learn from experience, robots essentially learn from data. So we need to be able to expose these robots to data over and over again so that they're able to learn themselves. And so the first step to expose them to that data is technology like the digital workforce and process automation, where we can aggregate all of that data, put it into a very usable format, where it then becomes information. And so we take that information, and just like we think back, hey, what did I do this last time I touched something that was hot? You think, well, I'm not going to do that again, so let me make this rule. And then this is what the process that they call machine learning. And then ultimately, once you get past that stage, you're able to repetitively and predictably come up with solutions to problems. And that's what ultimately AI is. So, down the line, we'll be there, but we're technically not there right now. And the way I look at digital workers is kind of a conduit to feed in that data to accelerate the process to get to AI. So that's kind of my whole take on AI. As far as augmented reality, a lot of it does kind of it leverages some of the technology we use from the digital worker side, in that in order to in real time give you that enhanced view of reality, you need to have that data on the back end fed into you. So, augmented reality is very, very, I think it's an amazing technology. And, even from the medical side, when you look at things like the Google technology and the new Microsoft technology, where surgeons can go in, and when they visualize, what's going on with the arteries, they have real-time view of, hey, this is the blood flow through here. It just really gives us better outcomes. So I think AI and AR, augmented reality, have, similar goals in mind. And they do have a lot of similarities, but they are different in a way too.
Right. Yeah, and we'll of course see more augmented reality. I really do feel like when the solutions are a bit better packaged into something like a Google Glass instead of something like a giant visor that that Microsoft might be putting out. But no, very, very good points. So let's talk about, we have one here saying, what are some of the staffing opportunities with robotics, and how can we better help people understand the benefits? Because, there's a lot of talk, and we really don't get into politics here, but, the idea of people losing their jobs to automation. I mean, I think it was in India that they, the prime minister or president, I forget what they have, but they said that they'll essentially ban any automation that would do away with people, specifically self-driving cars. They don't want to get rid of their taxi industry or things like that. And I think there's a lot of fear of artificial intelligence, of digital workers, not just being an augment like you've been saying this entire time, but full on replacing them in entire industries. So what are some of the opportunities? What are some of the benefits here? And are the is the skepticism that I really do feel every day on the show, is that justified in any way?
Yeah, no, I definitely know where you're going with that. So the first thing I look at is, let's take the example of India. And so, I don't mean to be harsh on India. And I mean, my background is Indian, so hopefully that gives me some leeway here. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the profits of all of the large technology firms in India, these companies who were sucking money out of the U.S. by having all these tasks outsourced, for pennies on the dollar, over the last couple of years, it's the first time they've seen their profits dip below 10%. And that's why they are not really proponents of automation, because it's taking money out of their country and back into places like the U.S. So, even that shows that, we are retaining jobs in the U.S. by embracing this technology. And then so if we focus more on the U.S., then let's look at the example of computers. Everyone thought that computers were going to replace humans, but essentially what it did is it opened up a whole new avenue, another industry where we can create jobs. And ultimately, that's how I look at it with the digital workers. That this is a new way of doing work, and it's going to create jobs from designing these digital workers better. Actually, there's no coding involved, but actually configuring these digital workers, that's a huge task, and that's going to be something that we're going to push people to do. Just like kids in kindergarten are learning how to write code right now, people are going to learn how to interact with the digital workers earlier in life, and there's going to be more jobs and different jobs created. I think there was a study that a huge percentage of jobs that we in 2025 don't even exist today. So I think with this technology, we are setting us up and giving people in the U.S. the ability to take advantage of those jobs.
Right, and I'll stop right there, Goku. Would you mind staying over for a few minutes so we can finish up this interview? We have to go to a break.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. So, everyone, the music means that we have to take a break, and we will be right back with Mr. Gokul Solai, and he is with Novatio Solutions. He is the CEO. Everyone, we'll be right back, and we'll, more Computer America right after this.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
See, that wasn't too bad. Welcome back, everyone. Computer America, 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on here with Gokul Solai, and he is with Novatio Solutions. You can find a link to that at, of course, computeramerica.com, Novatio, Novatio, solutions.com. And yeah, so again, thank you for continuing on with us. And so getting back to, our topic at hand, you were just getting to the point that a lot of the a lot of the jobs that, products such as yours are going to, maybe replace one day, or, maybe at least take what would, be dozens, if not hundreds of workers and narrow it down to, 10 or less. You're saying that, hey, there's going to be a lot of jobs, just like with any other disruptive technology. There's got to be something to replace it because, taking away the grunt work doesn't mean that there isn't something higher order. That you're right, that we use the term artificial intelligence, and it's a great buzzword. It's a great marketing word, but we don't have artificial intelligence. We have automated tasks, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
So, yeah. And so with that, we only have a couple more questions here, and I promise not to keep you for too much longer, but let's talk about big data, because this is something we also talked about in our interview just the other day. But the idea of big data, I think it scares people, that there's giant firms out there trying to collect every little bit of personal information about them. But that's not technically what big data is. Big data can come from many, many sources, and it can be very innocuous. So, like you mentioned, the emails with the power company, you can collect a bunch of data just scanning emails that people send you looking for answers, and hey, that can be a source of data. So how can collecting big data from tracking consumers one way, from just monitoring social media, things like that, be simplified with a digital workforce?
Yeah, so I agree with you on the point about big data and how people can see it as a hindrance. The biggest example of that is anytime you do a search, you get bombarded by similar things over and over again. It becomes a nuisance. But we also have to focus on how it can be beneficial. So there's a lot of if you focus on social media, there's a lot of information that's out there. I mean, the sheer volume of data that's being created, it's impossible to keep up with it using traditional ways of monitoring that. So, using the digital workers, we can go through and pretty much touch every piece of information out there in a very innocuous way, meaning, once the data goes in, it's pretty much put through a shredder and it comes out. No one's ever going to see it again. But there are triggers that it's going to pick up on. So if there's anything that comes up that triggers something threatening on social media, we can address that right away and escalate that to someone who can handle it. And even from the areas where I think it's particularly interesting are from medical side. Again, you look at the research of new drugs. So essentially, you have to put these drugs through simulations and have someone walk them through and see what's going to happen. So you can use the digital workers to perform these simulations in order to help us obtain approval in trials and get drugs that are going to help humans to market faster. And kind of continuing the parallel on the big data on the healthcare side, essentially we're able to aggregate any of the outcomes from treatments and then give patients, say, hey, look, if I give, instead of being prescriptive with how doctors and healthcare professionals deal with patients, we can pretty much talk to them eye to eye and tell them, hey, evidence-based medicine shows that this is what your outcome is going to be. So we've simulated this, we've put everything together, and this is what we'd recommend. And, pretty much put them hand in hand in making the decisions about, what's important to them. It's their body. They should have some input into what's said instead of just listening to some doctor who says, hey, do this. Mm-hmm. I think ultimately that's going to make the delivery better. So, aggregating data and using the digital workers to expedite how fast we can analyze this data is where the key is going to come in the interlay of these technologies.
Right. No, makes perfect sense. So, yeah, and again, we touched a bit about this, with the augmented reality. There's things such as virtual reality that are tangentially, kind of similar. But yeah, so not only artificial intelligence, of course, hugely important to what you do. Are there any other similar, are there any other tools or other technologies that you think would really benefit the workforce? And this may be a bit of, kind of blue skying here, but augmented reality, like you mentioned, a lot of benefits. AI, obviously it's what you do. Do you see any other up and coming technologies that, think are going to really be pervasive in the workplace of tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the way I look at it is, like how you mentioned that augmented reality is kind of a tangential technology to AI. And the way I look at it is you have a platform and you're going to have adjacent technology that's going to work to increase, synergistically the benefits of AI. One of the areas I really like right now is biometrics. And I feel that if we're going on this trend of modernization, if someone's resetting a password, why am I asking for security questions that are so, accessible and predictable? And, to take that a step further, why do we even have passwords anymore when, intrinsically humans are built with unique IDs and their iris and their fingerprints, et cetera? So technology that's going to be able to utilize the biometrics and then plug that into the AI platform is definitely going to help us go forward. So it kind of continues with the trend of digitization.
Right. So, and with that, I think we should, kind of wrap it up with this interview. But let's talk a bit about, Novatio Solutions. If someone were interested in learning more information, or maybe even, hey, thinking about implementing this in their workforce, where can they go? What can they do? What do you offer?
Yeah, so, and thank you for that. So you can go to our webpage, which is www.novatio Solutions. That's Novatio Solutions. And what I'd recommend is take a look at our blog section. We have a couple of white papers out there. One of the things that we want to first preface is, we need to embrace this change. So one of the papers talks about collaboration of the digital workforce and the human workforce. So that would be a start. And there's also a paper out there. I talk about the healthcare a lot, and that's because my background is there, and I think there's a lot of help in that area. But we have a paper on the future of medicine, which is an interesting read. After that, we have our website serve as just a bunch of information to familiarize you with this space. I think the next step would be to get in touch with us, and we would discuss with you how we could help your institution personally. I don't want to sell you a blanketed solution. Let me give you a bunch of licenses. Mm-hmm. We actually design our solutions custom for our clients. So reaching out to us and having our team work hand in hand to give you exactly what you need would be the next steps, and that's accessible off of our website.
Right. Very well said. And so with that, everyone, once again, Mr. Gokul Salai, and he is the CEO of Novatio Solutions. And Gokul, again, I was looking forward to this, and I will say that I was justified in saying that this was very interesting. And I want to thank you for coming on to Computer America and explaining what the robots are that are going to be, working hand in hand with us in the near future. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Thanks for having me on. It was my pleasure. I enjoyed the time.
All right. And again, we'll have you on in a couple months, see where Novatio Solutions is at. And yeah, until next time, have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, everyone. And there he goes. So And if you want to find out more, again, computeramerica.com, links and everything over to their website. So with that being said, why don't we move on to computer and technology news? That's right. I'm looking forward to this one. So here we go. Computer technology news brought to you by Computer America. All right, so let's get things kicked off here with, I think we're gonna do because we have a lot of very interesting stories. Why don't we do this one? So yeah, a little while ago, of course, there was the Equifax hack. We're still learning things about it. We will continue to learn things about it for who knows how long, for a long time to come. But we're combining it with the technology that we have talked about before. And it's a chatbot that's, chatbot very similar to what Facebook uses, to what a lot of retailers or even companies kind of wanted to develop to talk with their customers, because it's just like we talked about with our guest. They're a way to automate things and get things done quicker without having to bring a person into the equation. If you could do everything automated, then you're going to save a lot of time and a lot of hassle. So with that being said, there's a chatbot out there that supposedly does the work of a lawyer. Now, admittedly, not all the work of a lawyer. There's a lot that it can't do, but what it can do might just be enough to let you sue Equifax for up to $25,000 without hiring a lawyer. That's right. And of course, the asterisk here is that $25,000 are this is all small claims court. This is only something. This is the chatbot will file everything that you need for small claims court to make the maximum amount of claim, and in your state. So it's for example, Rhode Island, of all places, the smallest state, has the smallest payout in small claims court, and you could only get $2,500 out of that. But if you were to, in Kentucky, then you could get $25,000 because that's the limit of small claims court in Kentucky. So obviously it varies by state to state, but the exciting part here is, of course, the use of the chatbot. So this coming to us from The Verge, and saying that chatbot lets you sue Equifax for up to $25,000 without a lawyer, saying that Equifax's security failure affected 143 million U.S. consumers, or about 44% of the population. Yeah, it's a big deal. So to add insult to injury, Equifax waited over a month before revealing the security breach it had suffered, saying that if you're one of the millions affected by the breach, and again, odds are you're, every 1 out of 2 people probably is, saying that a chatbot can now help you sue Equifax in small claims court, potentially letting you avoid hiring a lawyer for advice. So even if you want to be part of the class action lawsuit against Equifax, you can still sue Equifax for negligence in small claims court by using the do not pay bot. That's right. And demand maximum damages, saying that maximum damages, again, can vary from state to state. You have to look it up yourself, but $2,500 for Rhode Island, $25,000 for Kentucky, and I'm sorry, whoa, bad information. $2,500 in Rhode Island and Kentucky, with $25,000 in Tennessee. So sorry for all you Kentucky people, right? So Tennessee has $25,000. So the bot, which again launched in all 50 states in July, is mainly known for helping parking tickets. And yeah, that's where we first heard about it, where where this chatbot, essentially you feed it in all the relevant information, it goes out, it searches for the proper paperwork that it has access to, and fills in all of your information and files it for you electronically. And again, this is all without a lawyer. This is all without actually talking to a person. It's something that's very simple, very automated. And hey, it worked. There were a lot of people who had their parking tickets dismissed thanks to this chatbot. But with a new update, its creator, who was one of the 143 million affected by the breach, is tackling a much bigger target, saying that the larger aspirations to match. Where he says, I hope that my product will replace lawyers and, with enough success, bankrupt Equifax. Not a lot of word mincing there. He is not a fan of what Equifax, kind of did to him. So, he's saying that not that the bot helps you do anything you can't really do yourself, which is filing a bunch of forms. Again, that's mainly what this chatbot does. It has, as much as he says he wants to replace lawyers, this is in no way a full replacement of lawyers. Instead, it simply gets you, a place to where you could probably get yourself. So he's saying that unfortunately the chatbot can't show up in court a few weeks later to argue your case for you either. To add to the headache, small claims court rules differ from state to state. For instance, in California, a person needs to demand payment from Equifax or explain why they haven't demanded payment before filing the form. So, yeah, there are, not only, if you use this, it's great. You now have a piece of paper that maybe kind of says that Equifax owes you money, but actually collecting on that money, where you have to, garnish your bank accounts, where you have to file liens, things like that. Things that I don't feel like the average person is kind of up for. But it does get your foot in the door. It does get you started. And he's saying that he isn't convinced that a chatbot can successfully win a lawsuit, saying, I'm not inclined to think that it would be a panacea. Filing and winning a small claims case takes more than just filing a form. Again, because you have to go in, you have to argue it yourself, and even if you win your case, which again, kind of a up in the air kind of thing, you have to then serve on it, and it's not that simple. So he says, the article continues saying that still chatting with a bot on a friendly blue screen can help you take the guesswork out of a small claims court procedure. All you have to do is state your name and address, and it generates 8 pages of lawsuit documentation in PDF form that you can print and file. Right. So, again, does not replace a person, but it does help with, just like we were talking about with our guest today, it does help with very menial tasks, very repetitive tasks. And Equifax seems like it's going to put up a fight. So, help in the form of chatbots can't hurt. Where a trial and transaction lawyer in Texas had this to say, saying that I believe that Equifax will fight class action lawsuits and claim in small claims court actions. That does not mean that Equifax will prevail, but given the scope of the 143 million individuals, it strikes me that Equifax will want to make this as complicated as possible for consumers. Because he's right, if everyone were to file, even at the minimum, $2,500 in again, Kentucky and Rhode Island, even if they were to file for that, and 143 million people took them to small claims court, let's face it, that's to the tune of, what is that? Over $1 trillion. Over $1 trillion. And heck, even a smaller settlement looks something closer to 80 or 90 billion dollars. This is not going to end well for Equifax. So the only way that they have to kind of stay afloat if litigation were to pop up is to fight it tooth and nail and try to drag it out and find themselves cleared of any wrongdoing. Which, again, like the lawyer said, may or may not work, but it's what they're going to have to do. So, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and continue on to some of these other stories, and all right, how about we do this one? So this was a story that we covered a while ago, and it was a very seem pretty inane and kind of pointless, but it does have implications over who owns copyright. It was a pretty big copyright issue. And now, well, turns out that we finally have a settlement in the case. So if you're watching the video portion, you are seeing an image of a monkey smiling at a camera, and yeah, that's that image is pretty iconic because that's what the whole thing was about. So, and this coming from Engadget, Mr. John Fingus, saying that the simian photographer and his friends are getting a little help. That the battle over who owns the rights to a monkey selfie has raged for years, but it's coming to a quiet end, where the camera owner, Mr. David Slater, PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, I'm not sure how they got into all this, and Blurb have reached a settlement in the case before a federal appeals court could rule whether or not Slater or PETA, again, on behalf of the monkey, a crested macaque named Naruto, own the photos. And the truce doesn't appear to alter Slater's original court victory, but it will have him donating 25% of future revenue from the selfies to charity that protect the habitats of Naruto and his species. So I guess PETA was, taking up the monkey side. And for those of you who do not remember the court case, because it's been a little while, but this gentleman, he was out there, he was taking photos of, the monkeys, of nature, of, it was his camera, and he was a field photographer. And one of the monkeys came over, picked up his camera, and snapped this photo. And again, if you're looking at, the video portion, you can see it there. It's a pretty good photo, it's a good looking mug. So, but the question was because, because David Slater was not physically holding the camera, and rather the monkey was holding it, took the picture and everything, who really owned the rights to the selfie? Was it the person that owned the camera, or was it the person that took the picture? And in this case, the person happened to be a monkey. So, David Slater found a lot of people using his photo without permission. They were not giving him credit. And, hey, he had to go to court over who had the rights, because obviously if a monkey had the rights to the photo, well, they're never going to show up in court. That's completely unenforceable, and David Slater would have no right to, the royalties that his photo generated. And, well, now we have this settlement. 25% of the future revenue from the photo are going to charity. And in a statement, Slater and PETA said that the case raised cutting-edge issues and that the rights of non-human animals, and that they both support the idea of expanding animal rights. So it sounds like the photographer was not of the mind that you should, completely say animals have no rights, animals are stupid, animals can go away. Instead, they both seem to be at least somewhat close to the same point of view. And hey, it's going to work out pretty well for the monkey and his friends. So for all intents and purposes, Slater got the upper hand, even as the fight over the photo erupted in earnest. The U.S. Copyright Office was drafting practices that granted ownership rights exclusively to humans, and that PETA was bound to face an uphill battle. However, it does serve as a reminder that ownership isn't always easy to determine, especially in an era where artist robots can produce work without human intervention. That's right. We have music, we have pictures, we have, a lot of different media that is created strictly by robots, strictly by artificial intelligence. So who owns the rights to those? Is it the person who, is it the person that owns the AI that created them? Do they own it? Or is it the fact that the AI created it means that no one owns it and that it's open to, it's open to the public? Hey, these are the questions raised by a monkey with a camera. Who knew? So there you have it. That was a pretty cute story when it happened, and glad to hear it finally came to an end. All right, we have time for maybe one, maybe two more, and we should probably get this one out of the way. So you may not have heard of it yet, but there's a vulnerability that you should probably hear about. You're definitely going to hear about later as we truly understand the full scope of this, and we're going to try to keep this as non-technical as possible. But there's an attack vector that they're calling Blue-born, so like Bluetooth, but Blue-born, that exposes almost every connected device. And that's because, well, Bluetooth is baked into a lot of these devices because, hey, it's a great way to transfer data, but when the underlying technology is compromised, that means that every one of these is then compromised. So Armis Labs, and by the way, this coming directly from Armis, saying that Armis Labs revealed a new attack vector endangering major mobile, desktop, and Internet of Things operating systems, including Android, iOS, Windows, and Linux. Right, so every major operating system. And heck, even Linux. I kid, but, and the device using them, saying that the new vector is dubbed Blueborn as it spreads through the air, as in airborne, and attacks devices via Bluetooth. So, Armis has also disclosed 8 related zero-day vulnerabilities, 4 of which are classified as critical. And that Blueborn allows attackers to take control of the devices, access corporate data and networks, penetrate secure air-gapped networks, and spread malware literally to adjacent devices. Yeah, and obviously, you know, Bluetooth, you don't really think about it much, but if it's activated and it's in the area, hey, you know, it's a very open technology. But let's find out what really caused this. So they said that Armis reported these vulnerabilities to responsible actors and is working with them to bring patches that are identified and being released. So they're working with, obviously, the manufacturers of Bluetooth to, you know, get them, with Bluetooth, and also with, you know, I'm sure the likes of Microsoft, Apple, and other, you know, Bluetooth purveyors. So what is Bluetooth? They're saying that it's an attack. What is Blueborn? Saying it's an attack vector by which hackers can leverage Bluetooth connections to penetrate and take complete control over target devices. Saying that they affect they affect anything with Bluetooth. And the attack does not require the target device to be paired to the attacker's device. It's one big thing because, you know, having to pair the device would obviously give it a lot of permission, but it doesn't even need to be paired or even to be set on discoverable mode. That's very important because normally you can hide a Bluetooth device. You know, you don't let it, you know, kind of let itself be identified by other devices, but it can even bypass that. They're saying that, again, they've identified 8 zero-day vulnerabilities. Zero-day means that they are not out in the wild. They have not been seen before, and therefore they do not have definitions to, you know, devices don't have any security against zero-day vulnerabilities because they have not been seen before. So, and they said that Armis believes that many more vulnerabilities await discovery in the various platforms using Bluetooth, and that these vulnerabilities are fully operational and can be successfully exploited. So, and yeah, so they're saying the risk is, they're saying that by spreading through the air, Blueborn targets the weakest spot in the network's defense and the only one that has no security measure protections. Spreading from device to device through the air makes Blueborn highly infectious, and moreover, since Bluetooth process has high privilege in all operating systems, exploiting it provides virtually full control over the device. So essentially what it's saying there is that if you have a network with a lot of different Bluetooths connected to one another, to another, to another, think of a home, then hey, you can infect the entire system through this one vulnerability. So let's see. So yeah, there's more to this. We have a link to it in the show notes, but suffice to say, it's this can be pretty bad. So everyone, again, I'm sure we'll hear more about this. Hopefully, by Armis coming out with this and by showing everyone, it means that hey, you know, they can fix it and that they can push an update before this gets out of hand. But now that it's known, well, now everyone knows, and it's something you should really, again, keep everything up to date as possible and as much as you possibly can. So with that, everyone, music means that we are just about done here on Computer America. I want to thank you all for joining us, and of course, tune in next time, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern on Computer America, as we talk, of course, interviews, news, and more of the same. So until next time, everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. And again, catch you next time. Bye-bye.